Hey there, are you ready for this? So I'm going to take you directly into my studio, my gallery right here, just off Commercial Street. And I want to share with you all of these wild pieces from my past. Hey everyone, it's James Frederick. I want to welcome you to Remember When, which is the second exhibition of 2023. And I'm excited to share with you the work. I had tons of fun working on all these pieces, and they represent my youth. So I've recently been reunited with a lot of items from my past. I drove to the Midwest in the off season and picked up boxes and boxes of various things, and that along with kind of a resurgence of connection with my family as of late just really reminded me a lot of my youth, and I was inspired to paint all of these pieces. So I will be taking you through all of them one by one, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about the process. So these are a little bit of a departure from my usual. And if you're familiar with me, you know that I am a painter here in Cape Cod, and I often am inspired by my environs, the light and the water, and I typically paint from that inspiration. So again, these are a little bit of a departure for me with painting, and I got very tight with a lot of these. I usually work on an easel, and some of these pieces I did on an easel, but then as I moved to the table, it seemed like I became more and more detailed, which is fine. It was still a fun process, and I love how these turned out, and I certainly love how they look in mass. So I'll take you through each piece, and I'm gonna do it with a handheld camera, so you'll be able to see them up close, and I will talk about it as I go along. But most of these are 8x8, it's all acrylic on canvas, and I have a few pieces here that are 6x6. So they will all be up on my website, and you can connect to it with the link here in the YouTube description. And I think that's all I have to say. So I'm gonna take you through these pieces. Okay, here's the setup. I'm on a ladder, and I'm gonna take you through these pieces one at a time. So bear with me. There may be a bit of editing. Here are the pieces. The first 20 are 8x8, as I mentioned. It's acrylic on canvas. I used interesting color to kind of accent all of these pieces and to link them as a family of work. So you'll notice that as a common thread as I go through these pieces. And they also have my trademark dark canvas coming through. As you can see, I use that as part of my composition, but also as texture and tension with the paint and the fabric. So onto the work. So this first piece is called Dime a Call. And if you remember, we used to have payphones, and yeah, you had to put money in them to make a call. So this is definitely an old school one where the coins went into the top and you could release them at the bottom. This piece is called Bad Hair Day. And it's a troll, as I'm sure you already know. If you grew up in the 60s and 70s, we had these crazy little dolls with wild hair, and it's called Bad Hair Day. This piece is called Tab, and it was a pull tab top on a can. I was inspired by the soda Tab. I used to drink a lot of that in my youth, and the color of the can was pink, so I went with a little bit of pink background on this one. And I definitely took my time with all of this lettering on many of these pieces, and you can see how that came to life, which is really cool. And as I talk about this lettering on a lot of these pieces, I just wanted to mention that my father used to hand letter signs for a church carnival that we had every year, and they were like giant signs, and they were all done by hand, and he would sketch out the lettering, and then he would go in with a lettering brush and do the lettering. And I used to just marvel watching him do that because he had such a steady hand, and it was wild that as I did some of the lettering on some of these pieces, I could only think about his technique, and it really gave me a bit of a connection to him. And you have probably heard me mention before that he's definitely been my inspiration, was a working artist and trained me and my sisters and all of us to paint and draw from an early age, and big part of my connection and actually my legacy to art. So thanks, Dad. And this piece is called Build, and you'll recognize this iconic building block, the Lego. I used to have tons of Legos and loved playing with them. This one is called What a Doll, and you can tell it's the iconic vintage Barbie. Yep, I even had Barbies, one or two of them, but I totally had a lot of fun playing Barbies, so there, it's out there. And I'm gonna take you down, I think, for this next piece. And this one is called Flip Out. And it's basically one of those flip clocks. Do you remember that? The letters actually were like little flip cards, and the mechanism like made it turn until one of them came down to change the time. Love those, and they clicked and they made lots of noise. So that one is called Flip Out. This one's called Haul It, and it is antique, like me, an antique Tonka truck. So that one was fun. I used to play with those in the sandbox. I had a bunch of different ones. They were big, and they actually had a brand of those kinds of big metal trucks called Buddy L too, which I loved because that was my nickname growing up, Buddy. This one is called Penny Gum. I'm gonna try to darken the screen a little bit because it's a little blown out with the light, so I'm not sure if it's reading well, but it's called Penny Gum, and it's one of the gum machines. You'll notice there's actually a penny in the slot. That doesn't happen anymore. There used to be one at our barber shop, and every time I would go and get my hair cut at the barber shop, I was able to get a piece of gum, so bubble gum out of the machine. This piece is called Reception, and the color's reading a little more lemon here than it is. It's actually a little more buttery, the color, but this is, if you remember, when we used to have antennas, the rabbit ears that we put on the TV to get reception. Crazy. And this piece is called Mac. If you remember that tall, strange Mac that had the little disk drive at the bottom, it was one of the first ones. And this piece is called Where's the Key? And if you remember, there were skates that you could strap onto your shoes and roll around on. And there was a key that you would wear around your neck that would be on like a little cord, and always have it with you because you needed it in order to open and close the toe part of the skate, which tightened around your toe. So it's kind of weird, but anyway, those were fun. The wheels were like metal, and they made lots of noise as they went on the concrete. This piece is called Cherry, and it is a picture of Kool-Aid. And I used to sell Kool-Aid at a little Kool-Aid stand, much like a lemonade stand, out on the sidewalk in front of our house. It was a way to raise money so I could buy candy. This piece is called Trippy, and it was a lava lamp that we had in our house, and my father loved this lamp, and I did too. I loved just watching it for hours. It seemed like, you know, just the wax would shift and move and always be different. It was trippy. So that one's trippy. This one's called Fave Flaves, and you may have seen a video of me painting this up on my socials. One of the ones I did in the easel, but anyway, it is Pixie Sticks, which I love. And they still make Pixie Sticks, which I didn't realize. And I'm serving them at my reception. So lovely. Wine and Pixie Sticks, come on down. And this one is called Ready for Action. And this is G.I. Joe, as you can see. And I loved playing with G.I. Joes. I had tons of those. And of course they liked Barbie quite a bit, but they also liked each other. So G.I. Joe. And this piece is called Let's Get Physical. It's obvious what this is. But this was one of the FM versions of the Walkman that you couldn't even really play a tape in. It just got radio. So the Walkman, Let's Get Physical. This piece is called Dial Me Up, and it's a rotary phone. Yep, that used to be the case. Dial Me Up. This piece is called Adapter, and if you remember these 45 adapters that you would put into the record so that you could play it on a turntable that didn't have like a larger adapter, those little plastic things. So this obviously is Apple Records, the Beatles, but the 45 adapter. I love that. And this piece is called Party Photo, and it's the Polaroid, which was tons of fun at a party. And this piece is called Jag in a Box, and this one is a Matchbox car, and I actually picked up one of my Matchbox cars while I was getting all that stuff from the Midwest, from when I went to Ohio to pick up stuff from my childhood, and I love that. I still have the box on that one. And it's one of the few that I didn't stick into a vise and grind up, because I tended to be a little destructive with my Matchbox cars. So, all right, and now these are the 6x6s. This one's called Mixtape, which you probably have seen because I used it to promote the show. I love this. This was playlists before playlists. Mixtape. I used to make up tapes for all of my trips. This piece is called Page Me, and if you remember, we had pagers. A number would come up and you would call the number. Yeah, I don't know, someone recently as they came into the studio told me that some professions still use pagers. I didn't realize that, but anyway, a pager was a big part of my life when I worked in visual merchandising years ago. And this piece is called Back Up, and it's the old hard disk that we used to use for data storage. In fact, I've got a ton of data on disks just like this that I have no idea how to get off of the disks. So the backup files are forever backed up and lost. That one's called Backup. So those are the pieces. I am going to step back and show you the whole setup. So I love how these all look in a group. In case you're wondering what this odd thing is that's been in some of the shots, it's basically the sprinkler system that is here in the studio and actually through the whole building. And this is an unfortunate release valve that is required that comes down in my unit. So it's something that has been in the way for all of these years. So anyway, these are the pieces, and I love how this all looks as a grouping. Oh my God, there's a woman walking around out there talking loudly on her phone. And she needs to move on. All right, we're gonna have to call that a wrap because it's getting busy out there on the sidewalk, and soon enough, you're not gonna be able to hear me because it's gonna be loud and a bit of a distraction. So I would have loved to re-record some of that, but you get it raw, just like usual with me. So I want to remind everyone to please join me in July for Brave Optimism, which is a series of abstract paintings that are about the strength and the courage that it takes to be optimistic these days. And I'm having so much fun with those. Those are like full of life and light. So Brave Optimism in July. And then I wanted to tell you briefly that since the last time you saw me in one of these videos, I was able to spend some time out in a dune shack out in the dunes, and got a lot of inspiration for my show in October. So you're gonna watch for that one, Columbus Day weekend. It's called Shacked Up. But it was amazing. It's gonna be a lot of kind of watercolor and other medium. I hadn't painted with watercolor in years and brought them out there and was just inspired and painted multiple pieces there and took tons of photos. And I'm gonna continue that body of work over the summer, and you will get to see it in October. So stay tuned for that one. And I guess that's it. So thanks again. It's James Frederick, Frederick Studio, Provincetown. See you in July.